Okay. Hi everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Storytime Live. Um Hope that you're doing well and happy Thursday. It is hard to believe that we only have 4 days left of school. It has been this year has been such a crazy ride. But I hope that all of you are doing well and thanks for joining. Yeah. Um Give a shout out to Eli today because he's so great. Eli, you're so great. And um, Eli has the best facial expressions. um, so it's a shout out to Eli today. Um, uh, we're going to review on Voyage of the Dawn Treader, what was happening. So last time, so they had a crazy storm. Eustace was journaling, and then he didn't write in his journal again after that because he became very occupied. They landed on an island and they were saying, "Oh, we need to do all of this work because we need to rebuild the mast, we need to mend all the sails, we need to mend the clothes, we need to um, get more water, we need to mend our casks that hold the water." There was a lot of repair for both the Dawn Treader, the ship, and the crew that needed to be done on this island. Well, Eustace decided that this would be a perfect opportunity to slip away and not do any of the work. So he wandered by himself in the fog and he took a nap. And then he realized he was like, oh man, they're going to leave me behind. Although, if he had really known Caspian and Edmund and Lucy better, they never would have left him behind. And he all of a sudden found a dragon, but he didn't really know what it was because he didn't read the right story. So he hardly even knew in his head what a dragon was. And the dragon was really old and sad and all of a sudden just keeled over and died. And he just kind of looked at it and he was terrified. And then he went up to it and touched it and it didn't move. And then he kind of thought it was funny. And and yeah, he didn't quite know what to do about it, but he was distracted by this dragon. And we're gonna see what happens next. Okay. All right. The climate of this island was a very unpleasant one. In less than a minute, Eustace was wet to the skin and half blinded with such rain as one never sees in Europe. There was no use trying to climb out of the valley as long as this lasted. He bolted for the only shelter in sight, the dragon's cave. There he lay down and tried. Most of us know what we should expect to find in a dragon lair, but as I said before, Eustace had read only the wrong books. They had a lot to say about exports and imports and governments and drains, but they were weak on dragons. That is why he was so puzzled at the surface on which he was lying. Parts of it were too prickly to be stones and too hard to be thorns. And there seemed to be a great many round flat things, and it all clinked when he moved. There was light enough at the cave's mouth to examine it by. And of course, what Eustace found it to be was what any of us could have told him in advance: treasure. There were crowns, those were the prickly things, coins, rings, bracelets, ingots, cups, plates, and gems. Eustace, unlike most boys, had never thought much of treasure, but he saw at once the use it would be in this new world, which he had so foolishly stumbled into through the picture in Lucy's bedroom at home. They don't have any tax here, he said, and you don't have to give treasure to the government. With some of this stuff, I could have quite a decent time here, perhaps in Calorman. It sounds the least phony of all these countries. I wonder how much I can carry. That bracelet now. Those things in it are probably diamonds. I'll slip it on my own wrist. Too big. but not if I push it right up to my above my elbow. Then fill my pockets with diamonds. That'll be easier than gold. I wonder when this infernal rain's going to let up. He got into a less comfortable part of the pile where it was mostly coins and settled down to wait. Oh, he got into a less uncomfortable part of the pile where there was mostly coins and settled down to wait. But a bad fright, which once it was is over, and especially a bad fright following a mountain walk, leaves you very tired. Eustace fell asleep. By the time he was sound asleep and snoring, the others had finished dinner and became seriously alarmed about him. They shouted, Eustace, Eustace, go away! Till they were hoarse, and Caspian blew its horn. He's nowhere near, or he'd have heard that, said Lucy with a white face. Confound the fellow, said Edmund. What on earth did he want to slink away for like this? But we must do something, said Lucy. He may have got lost or fallen into a hole or been captured by savages or killed by wild beasts, said Drinian. And a good riddance if he has, I say, muttered Prince. Master Rince, said the chief, you never spoke a word that became you less. The creature is no friend of mine, but he is of the Queen's blood. And while he is one of our fellowship, it concerns our honor to find him and to avenge him if he is dead. Of course we've got to find him, if we can, said Caspian wearily. That's the nuisance of it. It means a search party and endless trouble. Oh, bother, Eustace. Meanwhile, Eustace slept and slept and slept. What woke him was a pain in his arm. The moon was shining in at the mouth of the cave, and the bed of treasure seemed to have grown much more comfortable. In fact, he could hardly feel it all. He was puzzled by the pain in his arm at first, but presently it occurred to him that the bracelet, which he had shoved up above his elbow, had become strangely tight. His arm must have swollen while he was asleep. It was his left arm. He moved his right arm in order to feel his left, but stopped before he had moved it an inch and bit his lip in terror. For in front of him, and a little on his right, where the moonlight fell on the floor of the cave, he saw a hideous shape moving. He knew that shape. It was a dragon's claw. It had moved as he had moved his hand, and became still when he stopped moving his hand. Oh, what a fool I've been, thought Eustace. Of course the brute had a mate, and is lying beside me. For several minutes he did not dare to move muscle. He saw two thin columns of smoke going up before his eyes, black against the moonlight, just as there had been smoke coming from the other dragon's nose before it died. This was so alarming that he held his breath. The two columns of smoke vanished. When he could hold his breath no longer, he let it out stealthily. Instantly, two jets of smoke appeared again. But even yet, he had no idea of the truth. Presently, he decided that he would edge very cautiously to his left and try to creep out of the cave. Perhaps the creature was asleep, and anyway, it was his only chance. But of course, before he edged to the left, he looked into before he edged to the left, he looked to the left. Oh, horror! There was a dragon's claw on that side too. No one will blame Eustace if at this moment he shed tears. He was surprised at the size of his own tears as he saw them splash onto the treasure in front of him. They also seemed strangely hot. Steam went up from them. But there was no good crying. He must try to crawl out from between the two dragons. He began extending his right arm. The dragon's foreleg and claw on his right went through exactly the same motion. Then he thought he would try his left. The dragon limb on that side moved too. Two dragons, one on either side, mimicking whatever he did. His nerve broke and he simply made a bolt for it. There was such a clatter and rasping and clinking of gold and grinding of stones as he rushed out of the cave that he thought they were both following him. He dared not look back. He rushed to the pool. Twisted shape of the dead dragon lying in the moonlight would have been enough to frighten anybody, but now he hardly noticed. His idea was to get into the water. But just as he reached the edge of the pool, two things happened. First of all, it came over him like a thunderclap that he had been running on all fours. And why on earth had he been doing that? And secondly, as he bent towards the water, he thought for a second that yet another dragon was staring up at him out of the pool. But in an instant, he realized the truth. The dragon face in the pool was his own reflection. There was no doubt of it. It moved as he moved. It opened and shut its mouth as he opened and shut his. He had turned into a dragon while he was asleep, sleeping on a dragon's hoard with greedy, dragonish thoughts in his heart. He had become a dragon himself. That explained everything. There had been no two dragons beside him in the cave. The claws, the right and the left, had been his own right and left claws. The two columns of smoke had been coming out of his own nostrils. As for the pain in his left arm, which had been his left, or what had been his left arm, he could now see what had happened by squinting with his left eye. The bracelet, which had fitted very nicely on the upper arm of a boy, was far too small for the thick, stumpy foreleg of a dragon. It had sunk deeply into his scaly flesh, and there was a throbbing bulge on each side of it. He tore at the place with his dragon's teeth, but could not get it off. In spite of the pain, his first feeling was one of relief. There was nothing to be afraid of anymore. He was a terror himself, and nothing in the world but a knight, and not all of those, would dare to attack him. Now he could get even with Caspian and Edmund. But the moment he thought this, he realized that he didn't want to. He wanted to be friends. He wanted to get back among the humans and talk and laugh and share things. He realized that he was a monster cut from the whole human race. The appalling loneliness came over him. He began to see that the Yellers had not really been enemies at all. He began to wonder if he himself had been such a nice person as he had always supposed. He longed for their voices. He would have been grateful for a kind word, even from Raven. And that's where we're going to stop for today. And thank you for watching, and I hope that you have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow.